Alright, guys, can't believe I'm saying this, but we're gonna talk about DOA 6 today. It's been a crazy day today. I woke up and my entire world just fucking exploded at everyone yelling DOA 6, DOA 6 in my face. I'm still recovering from the insane overdose of hype. But it's been pretty crazy. I wanted to get around this sooner, but you know, had various other stuff going on, so just now I'm getting to it. But yeah, I already had a sneaking suspicion, given the just random out of nowhere inclusion of side tournament for DOA 5 at Evo. I was like, huh, that's kind of interesting. But here we go. Like, I feel that both things are heavily connected, and we'll see more development soon, depending on how things go over there in E3 and all that stuff. But there's a lot of information right now, and we're gonna go through it all. First, we're gonna start with, of course, the man himself, Mr. Lee Jan. But yeah, let's just get right into it. So right off the bat, I gotta say that the graphics look freaking fantastic in this game. Like, all the effects and the character models don't show a lot of difference. I think a lot of people suspected, me included, that this game was going to use an engine similar or even the same from DOA Extreme 3, which came out somewhat recently. I think that's actually the case for the female characters. It's left to see if the game will be running on that like upgraded graphical system. But it looks fucking great, man. I mean, you just have to just appreciate it from the trailer. Like, it may be pre-rendered, but the effects look pretty legit. Like, that's the one thing. And again, like, going directly into the important stuff, the stuff that interests us, Jan Lee, like, he looks amazing in this game. I love the costume. They clearly take like a lot of inspiration from his classic DOA 4 costume, like the one that's in DOA 5. His second costume, I like the colors. You know, it has like the little dragon on the side of the leg. It has some flame, some flame details on the bottom. Like, it's just a really cool looking costume. Looks like a combination of his default from DOA 5 and DOA 2. The colors, it just looks great, man. I love his design. And now we can actually go into some gameplay stuff. So gameplay is pretty much the big one here. Like, aesthetics are important and all that, and we'll talk about that more in depth later in the video. But now, you know, the big one, the gameplay. So the impression that the trailer gives is pretty mixed, I want to say. Just starting with like Jan, like, trying to break down what the trailer gives you. You see right here, like, there's this he starts with a little punch. That punch doesn't really look like anything he's done before. If anything, I'd say that the most similar thing that he has right now is probably like 6XP maybe. It's just like a little like hook fist. And even just from that move alone, you can see that there's a very like it creates a very heavy like stun for the opponent. It might be a new type of move. It may just be a new move in general for him. And then you go into, and this is pretty interesting, you kind of visually see very clearly that he kind of goes into his PPP, like his jab string, right? And just looking at that alone, like, you can tell that it looks pretty different. Like, the animation is not the same from DOA 5. If it is that string, it looks nothing like it. So that's another interesting point to take attention to, is that they might actually change a lot of the animations for this game. You see a lot of similar stuff with like Helena and like Sumi later on. But yeah, Then he kind of goes into like his little like power blow or whatever it is called. I'll have to look at my notes. But yeah, like his special move, which is cool. Oh, another thing to note here is that it appears that he is going to be, they're going to be using his voice actor from DOA 5, DOA Dimensions technically. So that's cool. I like that voice. There might be some people that don't like that. They expected like his classic voice to come back, but you know, it seems pretty confirmed that everyone is just going to use their voices from DOA 5, which is fine, in my opinion. Like, I have no problems with that. And then, a little bit later in the trailer, you see something pretty interesting here, is that, like, Jan Lee here starts to get bodied by Zack, but he's like, nah, dude. And he does a mid-kick hold. But you see that it goes into the little animation right there, but then the footage makes a very abrupt cut into something different that you can kind of see here, that he gets to hold and is about to do like some crazy bullshit, but then the camera cuts and goes into something different. Like, the hold itself looks like he's about to like push him to the wall. Who's the one that does that in DOA 5? As like a hold? Oh, it's Lei Fang. Lei Fang can like push you to the wall. It looks a little similar to that. But you don't get to see it. The camera actually cuts to a completely different animation. And I don't know what the hell that is. I don't know if that's a throw. Like, it looks super weird. I have no idea what that is. So that's pretty interesting there. The choice of them even making the cut there is a little suspicious. I don't know why they did that, but yeah, like it looks crazy. Like, you can't even discern what that is. Like, they're completely new animations. That's as much as you can really get from the trailer. I'm not gonna talk about the other characters because they all do flashy shit. They all do like new stuff, but we're gonna go into that a little bit later, talking about mechanics and what we know right now. But I feel like a lot of those strings, like a lot of the stuff that's shown in the trailer, is kind of showcasing a new system that's implemented in the game, and it's a little bit of an auto combo system. Now, this has become really popular in current fighting games, just the concept of auto combos and like easy combos and stuff like that. So it's honestly not surprising that DOA is also adopting that type of mechanic. I feel that that's what that is. They're either like showcasing the special moves or the auto combos, because that's what they usually are. They're easy combos that look very flashy, that look very cool, but ultimately are not very optimal. So, just talking about the stuff that you can kind of notice from Jan Lee. You get some like presumably story stuff there. One thing I guess I can take notice is that Zack is the only character that doesn't seem to be redesigned in any shape or form, which is kind of weird, but I don't know. So yeah, like that's about it for the impressions of the trailer. But now we're gonna go into much more interesting stuff related to an article that was actually posted. Like I think IGN was of the first sites to do any kind of coverage on the news. So we're gonna be taking a look at what was said there and some pretty interesting stuff there. So like I mentioned in that article, there's a little, like, IGN had a little bit of a hands-on on the game, and they were able to take a lot of information from that, seems like from the higher-ups themselves. And so I'll be taking like a few extracts from that article and just kind of like discussing what is said there. First here, there's pretty much, I think, the biggest one. It's kind of what I was saying earlier about like the auto combos and stuff like that. And here in this extract, Shimbori himself calls the button like the rescue button for beginners, which I find pretty funny. And then it is quoted here: in Japan there is a game for kids where you make two sumo wrestlers out of folded paper or cardboard, place them on the platform, and two players tap the platform repeatedly, one finger until the sumo figures out, collapse in defeat. Basically just rock and sock and robots. And he says here that today games developed for smartphone devices are often played with similar simplicity. That made me want to create a fighting game playable with only one finger, and this idea became the foundation of the new special button. So there, just from this and what I've been seeing around, there are two schools of thought with this. The bold statement of like wanted to create a fighting game that's playable with only one finger. It's pretty divisive. Like some people can take offense to that. Some people can think it's fine. But you know, for you to simplify a game, specifically a game like DOA, which is already so complicated, even at the beginning level, to do that, it's pretty divisive. And myself, I don't even know how I feel about it yet. But further here, it's explained more about the mechanic. And it says, simply mashing the special button allows players to execute a fatal rush, which is a powerful combo attack. Again, basically the auto combo of this game, or what's going to be the auto combo of this game. There's up to 4 neatly animated punches and kicks, make even a first time player look like an expert. Huh, how about that? And then the break gauge, which is this is a pretty big one. I think to me, well, no, actually no, but it's a pretty big change. This is one of the biggest ones. It is the first super meter for this series, which is already insane. We already had somewhat of a meter. It's not really a meter, it's more of a state with the power blows and the power launchers in DOA 5. But here we're gauged just a straight up like super meter, and we're gonna take a look at that further along. It says it gets charged with every attack landed or taken, and by blocking. That's a pretty big one. So the game will not only reward you somewhat for attacking and landing attacks, landing combos, but also by blocking. So I quite like that, because it's basically telling you that you're not going to be punished for being defensive, which is a good one. It's a good thing, and you'll see why. Once it's full, players can perform either the break blow, which is a flashing, highly destructive special attack. I don't know what to think about that. It's left to see if it's like a pushback move, maybe it's like something like an invisible move, invincible move. It kind of makes me think of Tekken 7 a little bit with its power crush mechanic. But there's not much to say about this yet, because it's not explained in depth. It also says here, or the break hold, which is a useful counterattack that deals low damage but works against high, low, and mid attacks. So I had a conversation about this a while ago now with a few players in the community, and I don't remember, I'm not gonna say names either way, but I don't remember who was the one that had the idea of having a spendable hold resource, basically a special hold, or you know, like as seen here, that uses a gauge that basically gives you a free hold. Now, as seen here, apparently that became true. So now you have like free, like invincible holds that just get you out of stuff automatically, right? The article here already states that it is low damage, which is good. It's balanced again, but again, it's a free get out of jail card, right? Which is big. It's huge. Both are executed with the special button. For break blow, you immediately simultaneously press forward and backward if you want to perform the break hold. The break hold. That's really all there is to it. Yeah. So again, kind of what I was saying before, is like you get this meter. We'll still have to see just how fast it fills up by defending and attacking, all that stuff. But from the get-go, as an initial impression, I quite like the idea of the mechanic, because it's somewhat divisive, and you're not just going to be able to like turn your brain off and use it, because there's a little bit of there's like a choice you have to make with it. You want to use it maybe offensively, or you want to use it defensively, which again goes into the whole thing about you get this meter by either blocking or attacking. So you're getting rewarded either way, but it's not crazy. Like, the reward is not, it's not gonna turn a game around. It's just kind of like to give you some breathing room. So there's a lot that could happen here, but I mean, not gonna lie, like hearing the concept of like a free hold that you just do and it works is going to change the meta insanely. Like, again, it depends on how fast and how easy you can get that meter. But yeah, so that's a pretty big one. Of course, it says also here, of course, you're too far away, special attacks when you reach your opponent, and if you turn repeatedly, and if you repeatedly perform the fatal rush without thinking, your opponent might dodge and attack you from the back. Now, that's not the way I expected that to be phrased. I expected that to be like, oh, you block it and you either like hold it at a specific point or you punish it or something like that. Why it says here that they might dodge and attack you from the back is a little weird to me, because that's like that tells me that in this game movement might be like a big thing, because of the way that it's worded here. Like, why would you choose that specific way of putting it? Like, why would you choose those words specifically, like attack you from the back? It's like, these people had access to the game, they've already played it, and in the case that movement is heavily buffed in this game, like, that might be even more of a change, like a crazier, just a more intense change, I guess. More detrimental is the word I was looking for. More detrimental change for the series, even more so than like the meters and all that stuff, because movement has been a pretty controversial subject on the community, especially when you go into like side steps and stuff like that. So that could just be like a mistranslation from the article, or like misinterpretation of what is being said, but that just caught my eye. It says it's not an instant win button. Hopefully it's not. It makes DOA 6 more accessible. That is true, as you can learn the right distance and timing for attacks without having to master difficult commands, which seems to be like the way a lot of fighting games, dare I say maybe all fighting games, work nowadays. Then you go here into a little bit of an expansion on that thought. Before super meters were considered as inappropriate for 3D fighting games, a 3D fighting game would have been frowned upon if it had the audacity to use a super meter, says Hayashi. But times have changed, so when Shimbori came to me with the idea to implement meters, I thought the idea would work in a modern game, which is what we were just talking about. We had so many heated discussions about this during development of DOA 5, which is documented, that was going to be a thing, and that's why power bows were even a thing in the first place. But today the landscape is different, and in the end, I know that we have a new generation of developers who are trying to move the series into a new era. Now, depending on where you move that interpretation might change a little bit, but it's still so early to say anything. So you kind of go here, and this is a pretty big one as well. That's again kind of going back to the aesthetic part of that, but I'm not gonna get ahead of myself. So before the term esports entered regular parlance, Shibari was a banana during his college years, and convinced. Just kind of, I took what kind of like interested me and really caught my attention. So yeah, it kind of goes on about here. Fighting games at the time were too demanding for casual players, and he wanted to make a game not only for fans like himself, but one that any gamer could potentially love and enjoy. And he hopes that DOA 6 is going to be that. And then he goes on to say, I think it's important to say that I'm not a top level player myself. Sure, I'm better than beginner players, but there are always players I just can't beat no matter how hard I try. God dang it, dude. So I know how unforgiving fighting games can be. That is true, which is why I wanted to make a game that feels good no matter if you win or lose, which is a pretty bold statement. Even with the new special button, it's gonna be hard to beat a professional player. But you might be able to successfully land a fatal rush or break blow against them, and that's going to feel really goddamn good. Which would make it more fun for new players, is what it says here. So again, that's a pretty interesting thought. It's a pretty like interesting mindset going behind these new mechanics. But anyway, so here it says another aspect that characterizes the series are the highly interactive and destructible stages. The version we got to play just 2 stages, and we didn't get to throw our opponents off cliffs, nor did we encounter any larger than life events such as a dinosaur suddenly appearing on the screen. Never happened, by the way. I guess you can consider like the stage in DOA 4 to be that, but whatever. Instead, we got to experience a more realistic type of interaction. For example, and pay attention to this, one stage had spectators around the edge of the ring, and if our fighter bumped into one of them, they would push us back, causing our character to lose balance and stagger. This gave our opponent the perfect chance to attack. It might not sound as exciting as throwing your opponent against a helicopter's propellers, but more realistic stage gimmicks have a different, subtler, and more seamless impact on battle. So that's pretty big, because it's already kind of detailing like a new stage gimmick that's going to be available in the game. I don't know why. It kind of reminds me of Def Jam a little bit when it's put like that. But you're just getting ganked by the fucking dudes around the stage. But that's a pretty big one. That's a pretty big one. That just getting pushed around the stage causes the interaction. And again, they pretty much give the big one here to us DOA players, that they push you back and you stagger. So if you manage to get that in a combo, well, that's already some way that you can extend your combo. And again, it's left to see if stuff like critical burst is gonna be in this game. I doubt it. I'd be surprised if it is. But yeah, you know, kind of like what's being said here, you know, it is a more realistic, not as crazy way of making stages interactable. But then it says here, while acknowledging the fact that he has taken a new, more refined approach for the arenas, Shimori tells fans not to worry, as he is planning some stages with the excitement and craziness that we have to come to expect in this series. And then they said that together with art director Yutaka Saito, he has already thought of several stages to implement the game. Now, those in the know, with Team Ninja, stuff like that, will recognize that name, Yutaka Saito, who started working on the game since DOA 4. And they worked on Ninja Gaiden 2 and 3 and a few other games like the Extreme series. So, you know, there is something to be said there. But yeah, it's cool that it already mentions the stages and those types of mechanics that we've come so well knowledged in and are such a like big part of DOA. So that's pretty cool there. Here we get something pretty important. I think one of the more important things when it comes to the game's advertising and the image it's trying to create for itself. And it kind of goes a little bit into what was being said before with like the esports stuff and all that. But it says here, this shift in approach is not only evident in the arena design, but in the game's presentation in general. DOA is a series known to feature ostentatious characters such as ninjas and highly sexualized female fighters with nearly superhuman powers, and while DOA 6 still shares the same DNA, things seem to have become a lot more realistic and refined. The game doesn't only come with new 4K enhanced graphics, but an actual change in direction as well. We wanted to make a more cool and mature DOA this time, and to that end we made a conscious decision to make the characters less sexualized. So yeah, let me just read this real quick. It goes without saying that this decision is heavily influenced by the fact that the industry is moving away from overly sexualized female characters. That's not true, by the way, in general, but Team Ninja seems to have a concrete vision behind this shift in style. If you look at the game's concept art, you can see that Kasumi is no longer just a fantasy figure for young boys. She's a goddamn warrior. So yeah, that's a pretty big one. Kind of like I butted in right there. That's not true. Over-sexualized female characters, especially in fighting games, are still a big thing. I mean, we live on the fucking waifu era, where you see a new female character for whatever, and everyone just loses their shit. I mean, just look at like Laura and Juri in Street Fighter 5. It's very evident, but as is being said here, DOA was known for that before everything else. So this is pretty cool. I think this is a very level-headed, very thoughtful way of pushing the series forward. One thing here is that the same thing was kind of said for DOA 5, and while sure there is somewhat of a difference, I guess you can say, the DLC gave the completely wrong impression after that. You know, we all knew that. And there's a little bit of a problem with like marketing and stuff like that that's related to that, but we're not going to talk about that right now. So it's a pretty cool decision, but it's left to see if it's actually like implemented well. I think this is expanded further upon here. Yeah, okay. So the female character is still attractive, as are the men, but first and foremost they are fighters, as I just said. In DOA 6, female characters' breasts no longer jiggle, and balancing the exaggerated fashion that the series became increasingly known for. The costumes we have seen so far are less revealing. That is true. Female characters are depicted in a more natural way, which makes them feel more human and believable than before. Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean that's pretty big. That is true. It's left to see if it will have like a jiggle option. Like if they're just gonna sneak that in there, you know, for the game. But if it is the default option, that is a pretty, like, you know, it's a pretty out there statement, I guess you can say. Like it makes sure that if you do see this game in tournaments, like you're not gonna be seeing that by default. But if they take out the option entirely, like that'd be huge. That'd be pretty big. That'd be a pretty big statement. The way characters change during fight has become more realistic as well. Characters will start sweating after multiple attacks. That was already a thing. Maybe they will be more visually seeable now. Make a grimace as they perform a powerful punch or kick, and even sustain visible wounds when hit by their opponents. Until now, Team Ninjas refrain from showing physical injuries in female characters, as they consider this to be something players would not want to see. MK9. However, DOA's characters are not depicted as fragile or weak. They are fighters. Showing their fights without the consequences they face wouldn't do them justice. Influenced by a new way of thinking, Team Ninja's devs seem to have drastically changed how they look at their characters. So again, that's also pretty cool. Immediately, and kind of like from what you get in the trailer and the artwork for Kasumi and stuff like that, if it wasn't clear before, now it's going to be even clearer that like the Ninja Gaiden universe and DOA are one and the same. We'll kind of see a little bit more about that later on. But yeah, that was also a subject of discussion a lot before with players in different places, saying that, you know, it'd be kind of interesting at least to see some sort of more realistic depicted violence in the game, and it seems that they're doing that now. You can see that in some of the screenshots for the game. There's like blood and like all this, like, you know, the characters get bruises in their faces and stuff like that. It's left to see how visible and how like pronounced it's gonna be, especially for the female characters. But again, it is cool that they're taking that route. And again, it's not like over exaggerated. It's like they're not gonna become like fucking edgelords. Like they get like cuts and shit, and like you can do fatalities, and like it's nothing like that. And you know, it's cool. I like that. But again, it's left to see if they implement it well. And then it is kind of all over the place, but it's just something that also caught my attention. So it says here that be playing local or online. Teenagers also putting an effort into the story mode and other offline modes. Shimura says that Teenager will probably take a similar approach to the story mode from DOA 5, which admittedly is not bad. The story itself, which was bad with it. Wait, as you play all the characters, the different episodes, the story unfolds, and then he plans to add some refreshing elements to that formula, which will probably be like, I don't know, like QTs or whatever. This mode should not only allow the player to enjoy the story, but would likely function as a tutorial as well, which is fantastic. It's the way it should be for fighting games nowadays. Admittedly, DOA 5 did have a pretty good like tutorial mode, and the story mode also taught players as well. It was pretty good, as players will have the chance to control different characters and get a taste for each one. For players who want to improve their skills even more, there will be an in-depth training mode. Yes, don't change the fucking training mode. If there's one thing that you have to keep the same for, or maybe expand upon DOA 6, is the fucking training mode. Don't change the training mode, please. Basic arcade mode. Shimura also has plans to add a new type of solo play experience. This is what caught my eye, but did not go into detail on what this will entail. So the version we played, you had actually a pretty interesting selection of characters: Kasumi, Zag, Helena, Janley, Haite, and Hayabusa. Again, that's pretty interesting because where's Ayane? Where's Face? You know, like picking Zag, Helena, and Janley, it's understandable. But Zag and Helena, it's pretty interesting to show those characters first, but I mean, it's cool. Hayabusa, who is also the main character of the Ninja Gaiden series, is an interesting case. Until now, his character design for DOA has been based on the most recent Ninja Gaiden entry. However, a new numbered Ninja Gaiden has not been released since 2012. Same year that DOA 5 came out, huh? Hint, hint. When both Ninja Gaiden 3 and DOA 5 came out, and so the new Hayabusa has been designed specifically for DOA 6 under the supervision of Ninja Gaiden director Fumihiko Yasuda, who I'm not familiar with that name. I'm probably just forgetting. Because I wonder if Hayabusa will have a similar appearance, and then it goes into like be like this E3 and stuff like that. And yes, I think that's a pretty good estimate to make. That, you know, we're getting more information about this game soon. I believe the official site gave a date of June 11th for more information on this game, actually. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, so the new design that Hayabusa has in this game is completely new. It's not like completely new. It's just like it's a change on his usual attire that he wore in DOA 5, the Falcon armor. The Falcon armor. But yeah, so it kind of occurred to me, is like they mentioned a new type of solo play experience. What if, you guys, what if you had fucking Ninja Gaiden 4 as a playable mode in DOA 6? Could you imagine that shit? If you remember in Tekken 5, where you had the fucking like what was it called, Devil Within or something like that? It was like a little beat 'em up extra mode where you controlled Jin, and it was like a straight up like full-fledged mode with like bosses and shit like that. What if they made that for DOA 6? What if they announced in this E3, like with this, and again the hint at Ninja Gaiden 3 and in DOA 5 coming out in the same year? I think it was the same year. It's pretty clear that we're gonna get something. But what if they just like push it even further and like, no, if you want to play Ninja Gaiden 4, you have to fucking buy DOA 6? That'd be crazy. Maybe it won't be like that, but maybe they'll make it like let's say like a prelude. Say DOA 6 is supposed to come out on early 2019. What if the game has a little bit of a prologue mode for Ninja Gaiden 4, and then Ninja Gaiden 4 is revealed to be like coming out like later 2019, you know what I mean? Something like that. That'd be fucking nuts, dude. That'd be fucking nuts. But I have my high hopes, dude. I mean, with this announcement, like shit. So now we go into an interesting new feature for Nijigan characters such as Hayabusa and Hayate. Their masks can be smashed off, revealing their faces. He plans similar elements for other characters too, such as the glasses falling off, which is not true because Zack keeps his on. I mean, I guess he has to. He also wants to not only have the degree of a character's sweat depend on the amount of movement, but also make the way each character sweats slightly different. That's a little too much. You're going into a little bit of a creepy end on that, but I mean, whatever. The final character roster for DOA 6 has not been revealed yet, but Shimbori is planning to include further familiar fighters as well as some brand new characters, which is big. Past entries have included guest characters from other series such as Rich Fighter and the King of Fighters. And Shimbori says the team might consider something similar this time around, but that they don't plan to start the game with they plan to start the game with a pure DOA cast, which is good in my opinion. But yeah, again, that's something that was discussed a lot before. Are BF characters just gonna like be there every single time now? No, unfortunately no, but eventually they might. And you know, they didn't fully undisclose that. Yeah, like we're not doing that anymore. And I think in this day and age with fighting games, guest characters are a little bit inevitable. So yeah, but it's cool. It's left to see like what changes in the roster happens. You can't make it too big either without adding guest characters. So there is mention of new characters. Are those new characters going to replace old ones? We can't say anything yet. So yeah. So now it says, with a new, more mature image and a more accessible approach to this gameplay, DOA 6 seems like it to mark a new beginning for the series. And I really hope so, man. I really hope. That's it. Only time will tell if it's suitable for esports. That's a touchy subject right there, but yeah. Team Ninja wants to focus on delivering an enjoyable fighting game and continue supporting it with updates long after launch, which is good. They've been pretty good about that, honestly. Haji believes that rather than trying to organize tournaments before DOA 6 is even released, Team Ninja should focus on delivering the best game they can, which is pretty big, and see how the community reacts to that. DOA 5 is confirmed as a side tournament for EVO. Team is considering making DOA 6 playable by attendees of the event. You lucky sons of bitches. The ones that are going to EVO. But yeah, and then some closing thoughts. That's pretty big as well, that they're like, we're not gonna just make tournaments right off the bat. They might have like a release tournament like they did for DOA 5, for those that remember that. But it's left to see. Again, esports and the way fighting games are like advertised and marketed now is so different from the way it was just a few years ago. So we just have to wait and see for DOA 6. So this was the end of the article on IGN, but it's not over yet. We're actually going to be looking at something else that popped up and caught my attention. Even more so that a lot of this stuff actually. So IGN also covered the game in Japan. Obviously that's where probably the article was translated from. And there's a pretty interesting extract here from that article. The articles are mostly the same. There's a part here that I don't know why it was omitted from the American article. And it's specifically, like, from what I can translate, what can I understand here, there's this sentence right here after DOA 6. It says that the stagger escape mechanic is going to be eliminated from the game completely. Now that's huge. That's huge too, because we're going into a completely different realm now, where they're actively maybe going to be taking entire mechanics out. So stagger escaping is going to be a pretty big one. This is exactly what is being said here. To quote the the sentence here specifically, it's stating that in DOE 6 the stagger escape mechanic is going to be abolished entirely. So again, that's a pretty big change for the game, but we don't even know how stunts work yet. That could be a tie-in for like how the meter is gonna work, you know, with the free hold and stuff like that. But again, you're not going to be punished for defense in this game, which is a good thing, but the defensive mechanics might change a lot, and the entire meta will as well. Just taking the concept of like of staggering out of the game. Like again, you don't have staggering, but what happens if Janley still has H plus K? You know, you may not have critical bursts in this game, but you're gonna get some pretty crazy stuff. What if sit down stuns are completely taken out of the game? We don't know. So that's pretty big. Again, for those that might have more knowledge in this stuff in the Japanese language, this is the article IGN made originally. Came from Japan. And like I said, there's no more like interesting differences from both, but this was something that was omitted in the American article. I don't know for what reason, but I found it pretty interesting. Yeah, so it's left to see what other changes, big changes they might make to mechanics. And now we're gonna take a look at some screenshots that were also in said article. They were put there as well, and you can see here there's already a little bit of a sneaky peeky at the HUD, at how the life bars is gonna look and everything. Surprisingly enough, you can see right here the life bars themselves seem to be going back to the way they were in DOA 5 Ultimate, which is interesting. I mean, the color looks like that, and you can see right here the guard gauge or whatever it was called. I forgot already. And surprisingly enough, it seems pretty long. As you see right there, it's a little bit longer than actually half of your health bar, but again, it's left to see exactly how fast it will build up. I think you get a pretty good idea from this screenshot right here though, because you see that Zag is pretty much at half health and he hasn't even built half of that bar. So I don't know, it's pretty crazy either way. There's various things you can see here. One of the ones that caught my attention the most was, why does it say 4-way hold underneath the timer? What does that mean? We have 4-way holds in DOA right now, sure, but why specifically, why stipulate that underneath the timer, as if that's some type of rule? I just found that really weird. And it seems that again, the blood and more mature presentation that they were talking about in the article is very present in the game. You have like little blood splatters on the screen and stuff like that. Might seem a little too much, but we'll see how they implemented everything. I can't tell if that behind Zach is like a blood stain on the floor or just like on the screen. But that's pretty interesting. Those are like the things that immediately jumped to me from seeing this screenshot. I think there's another one around here that I have. Yeah, so you can see it again, Janley looking fucking 6 foot. And again, you can kind of see it here. It's about the same thing. You have the infinite timer there, and then this shot right here, Janley is full health but has more than half of the gauge filled up. So I mean, this could be training mode, a screenshot for taken from training mode for all we know, but you know, it's still interesting to see that 4-way hold is still there. Again, no details on that, we can't say anything yet, but I just found that pretty interesting. But that's about all the information that we have right now. There are more screenshots that kind of like show more graphical aspects of the game, some close-ups of characters and stuff like that, what looks to be promotional art. There's like the concept art or whatever you want to call it for the stages. I really like the Coliseum stage, it looks really cool. It looks like a combination of a bunch of old DOA stages. But yeah, that's about all that we have for the game right now. It's a lot of information, like I said. Today has been crazy, just stuff popping up everywhere. This is as much information as I managed to write about. Talked about it all. Hopefully you guys didn't find this too boring. Again, this was more just like in-depth talk about all the different mechanic changes and stuff like that, little details. Like I said, you can see in the official teaser site for DOE 6 that more information is coming on the 11th of this month, so just actually a couple days away, so that's gonna be pretty interesting. Again, we have E3 like literally right around the corner, possible Ninja Gaiden 4 announcement, I don't know, and then we have Evo, and like there's just gonna be so much information. I hope to God we get something like individual character trailers or something like that. That'd be sick as fuck. But yeah, I mean, this is just the beginning. We already got so much, but shit, man, there could be, like, we couldn't even be scratching the surface for all that we know. But yeah, again, thank you all for watching, guys. We fucking did it. We did it. It came way sooner than we expected, but hey, it makes me so fucking happy. Hopefully it makes you guys as well. Again, all information that resurfaces or anything that catches my attention, I will try to cover and make a video about as well. But yeah, thank you guys as always for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.